I search the comment section for alignment, there are tons of results that come up, likely hundreds of them. The majority of them seem to be about how my Audi R8 will never ever get into perfect alignment specification ever again after the repair that was performed to it. These comments seem to be written only by experts. Let's quickly go through the most notable ones. And by most notable, I just mean the negative ones. Dude420 says, no frame machine needed. Put a GoPro on the guy doing a wheel alignment. Anthony says, I'll bet he keeps the alignment specifications a secret. Ruben says, I'm honestly shocked it even drove in a straight line. For some reason, after reading that one, I'm hungry. Last, this guy says, you should record how out of alignment it is when you get the job done.
I'm sure you guys have heard this, and probably from an expert. If a car holds a salvage title, if it was ever in an accident, or just damaged in general, maybe it was in a parking lot and got a really bad door ding, you will never ever be able to get it back into factory spec ever again. But is it true? Today we will find out, because we're gonna take my Audi R8, which was totaled out because of a cracked strut mount, to an alignment rack with a laser alignment system, and see whether or not they'll be able to put it back into factory specification. Besides the cracked aluminum strut mount that is in this corner right up here, the entire R8 was fitted with an aftermarket coilover system, changing the suspension geometry, so we'll need a 4-wheel alignment anyway. And I'm not really concerned about 3 of those 4 wheels going back into factory specification. It's more just that front corner one. In addition to the Audi R8, I rebuilt a couple other cars that had significant suspension damage, like my Audi S3 and also my Corvette Grand Sport, and I still have the results from those cars' 4-wheel alignments. I'm going to go through all of them today, and we're going to find out whether or not there's any truth to the statement that once a car has been in an accident, whether or not it will ever be able to be properly aligned again. Now, before we do that, we're going to take the Audi R8 on the road, and we're going to do one final coilover check. I want to adjust the spring preload settings, make sure they're all equal, and also make sure the ride height is equal in all 4 corners. And while we've got it up off the ground, I'm going to give it a quick oil change. So let's get on the road and let's go. We're going to get underneath the R8 now to do its oil change. I'm going to show you the 4 drain plugs under there. This thing's got a lot of oil in it, around 10, a little bit over 10 quarts. I've got just a few tools. Right here, I've got my electric ratchet. A lot of people ask me about this tool. This is from Milwaukee, but you can pick one from whatever company you like. I bucked up, I bought the Volkswagen Audi special tool to get to the one really difficult drain bolt. I'll show you that underneath there. There's a drain bolt right up against the frame. You need this. This is $100 just for the socket, which is crazy. Then I've got a M8, I think this is called a 10-point socket out of a kit that is fairly inexpensive. I've already got right over here the under panel tray, the main under panel tray that exposes the oil pan. We're gonna have to loosen up one other under tray under there to get to the last drain bolt, and then we'll simply drain it all out, and then everything will be from up top. The oil pan has 3 drain plugs, one right here, one right here, and then this is the difficult one that we need the special socket for. Let's start with the easy ones. When they start to drain, I'll go up top and I will undo the oil filter casing and also the oil fill hole. All right, get the oil cap off right here, and then right here in the new oil filter box, I went ahead, I unscrewed the oil filter housing from down in there. It's deep, right underneath the intake manifold there, and I'm going to assemble it outside the car. It's all dirty, and I'm making a mess, so let's do that outside. While things are still drained, let's reassemble our oil filter thing. I just like to take one of these picks and pull the old gasket off. A lot of the Volkswagen oil filter canisters, they have this gasket on top, and when you buy a new kit, it comes with a brand new one. Really simple stuff here. That's it. We've got the one in the corner there draining. Still a little bit. While it's doing that, I want to try and loosen this one. You need this $100 socket so it can get in on an angle here, and now I'm in. It makes the job really simple. You don't need this. You could probably figure out another solution, but oh, there it goes. All right, so at this point,
I'll remove that by hand. I don't know how much oil is gonna come out, how quick. All right, that made a mess like all oil changes do. That last one was kind of a pain. Those have all been completely drained. This bucket that is right here is about halfway full. The last thing we are draining is right up here. It's gonna be tough to see, but this is where a lot of the oil is gonna come out of. The dry sump system is right above, right here. So let's break that loose and let's get the rest of this oil out of the R8. Oh shit, that's a lot of oil. All right, this car takes 10 quarts of any oil approved for Audi. This has the Audi certification, so we're good to go. I've already put in the first 5. This is the next 5, and then I have a spare quart. I'm gonna put in like half of this, then you start the engine, let it circulate, put in the rest.
I love oil changes. Seriously, I do like doing my own oil changes because it saves a lot of money, especially on cars like the R8. Let me run through a couple numbers for you. The tool that I bought, that special socket, that was $100, but I can't really count that cost in the price of the oil change. Maybe you want to at home, that's why I let you know. But now I own that tool forever. So, $100 there. The oil itself, I paid about $50 for 2 of the jugs. Those are 5 quarts each. Then 1 additional quart was about $10. So $60 in oil. And then I bought the filter. That was really inexpensive. I think it was around $15. Now it wasn't Audi branded, but it was from the brand that makes them from Audi. So it's the same exact part. Can of brake clean, a roll of shop towels, and you can do an oil change on a supercar under $100, which is pretty amazing considering the dealership wants anywhere starting from $250. I've heard anywhere up to $500 for an oil change on an R8, and it's done basically the same as any other car. Instead of there being 1 drain bolt, there's 4. Now that we finished that, let's do the easy job. We're gonna take off all 4 wheels and tires. We're gonna make sure the rear ride height matches and the front ride height matches. We're also gonna check our preload really quick. It's a really simple process. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Once it is completely settled, we can then take it in for its 4-wheel alignment. I've loosened, I've adjusted, and they tell you when your wrench can fit in between this gap, that is the perfect preload setting. So now we'll go ahead, tighten this side down, do the same thing to the other side, measure the gap from here to here, and then as long as those match, these rears are completely finished. The ride height in all 4 corners was perfect. I didn't need to adjust it from where I already had it. The preload, I just completely reset it, got it back into basic setting, so that should be good. Let's get on the road and let's go to the alignment shop. We're on a pretty flat road right now. Hands off the steering wheel, road is straight, and the car tracks pretty darn straight. You know, I think that the tires could use a balance more than the car could use an alignment. Well, I shouldn't say more. It needs an alignment. We adjusted the suspension. We installed new suspension. The ride height is definitely going to be different than stock, so it needs the alignment. However, it also needs a tire balance. While the car's on the alignment rack, let's talk about 2 other cars that I rebuilt that had pretty substantial suspension damage. We're going to start with the Corvette Grand Sport, a car that I recently finished rebuilding. This is a car that most of you guys have heard me say already ran up on a curb, damaging both the front and the rear wheels. These are both replacement wheels. What else was replaced was a lot of the suspension here in the front. Sway bar end link was busted, the control arm was busted, and also the leaf spring in the front. There's a front and a rear leaf spring. The front leaf spring was pretty much destroyed. Had to replace all that. One other really major component that it's going to be really tough to see that was destroyed was the subframe. It is the lowest part of this car, where you see that kind of metal platform. The engine and its mounts actually sit on it. It's really, really tough to see, but exactly what the camera is focusing in on right there, that is part of the subframe. That was completely replaced because the one that was in this car was cracked from the accident. The subframe is one of the main areas that they adjust the front alignment for on the C6 Corvette. So with that replaced, with all the other suspension components replaced, with the 2 wheels and tires replaced on that side, let me go ahead and show you the alignment results from the C6 Corvette rebuild. All right, so if we look at that left front where we had our issue, everything was out completely. If we look at the right front, that was actually good, as was the right rear. It really was just on the left side, obviously, where we had our issues. Now, if we come down to what they got the measurements in, we can actually see right here, the caster, they were unable to get it to factory spec. That's why it is still red. If you see, the caster on the right front is 8 degrees. Here, the best they could do was 6.8 degrees. Now, when I asked the guy at the tire shop and said, what is this going to do? How is this going to affect anything? He said, it's so close to factory spec, you really don't have to worry. However, I don't know that. I'm not an alignment expert, and you guys should let me know in the comment section below how bad this will actually be for the Corvette. Based on the alignment results of the Corvette, we can conclude one of 2 things. The first is that the tech did not do an appropriate alignment. I don't think that's what it is at all. I'm not convicting the tech of that. The second would be that the car was in an accident, and the damage caused during the accident permanently changed the way the front of the car is, whether it be the structure or something else, and now it can never be put back into correct factory spec in stock form. I say in stock form because on a lot of sports cars, I've seen these camber caster kits that will actually give the car a little bit more adjustability than a stock setup would. These are for guys that like to take their cars to the track and really get them dialed in perfectly for their liking and give you more adjustability on your camber or your caster. And that might go ahead and actually fix the camber issue with this car. Although it tracks straight, it drives straight, and I haven't put enough miles on it to see if it's unevenly wearing the tires. If you're new to the channel, you might not remember the Audi S3 rebuild project. It's actually the first car I ever featured here on YouTube. This car had a substantial amount of suspension damage, pretty much in the front and the rear of the driver's side of the car. Every single suspension component was replaced. Both axle shafts, both shocks, the knuckles, control arms, tie rods, end links, you name it, it was replaced. Now, even though a lot of the suspension was broken, it was pretty clear while I was working on the car that neither one of the strut mounts had been damaged. When I drove the car in for its alignment, the steering wheel was sitting completely sideways while the car was going straight. This thing was really out of alignment, and you can see that from its spec sheet before the car was aligned. Now, when we take a look at the results after the alignment, everything was able to be put back into factory spec. Now let's go back to the R8. I want to note a few things about this alignment. First, if you notice the alignment rack that the car is being put on, that's an in-ground rack. It's actually flush with the floor and then raises up. This is great for sports cars like the R8 because they're so low to the ground. You risk damaging them on an alignment rack that has an incline that has to drive up on. I learned about this when I took the Corvette into a different shop to get an alignment done, and they denied me service because the car was too low to the ground and their rack was on an incline. You had to drive up on it. So if you have a lowered car or a sports car, make sure the shop that you're taking it to has an alignment rack capable of fitting the car on properly without damaging anything. The next thing, while this price greatly varies, the Audi dealership wants something in excess of $200 locally. I've heard up to $400 for a 4-wheel alignment, which sounds insane. This one cost me $89.99. The typical price for a 4-wheel alignment would be the same price on something like a Toyota Camry. The techs at this specific shop were really nice, really professional, and they showed me around as they were working on it. For $10 a corner on top of the alignment service, I opted to have all 4 wheels balanced, and this is where we found a slight issue. One of the wheels seems to be completely out of round, and believe it or not, it's not the front left corner wheel, it's the rear left corner wheel. They balanced it as best they could, but it definitely needs to be replaced. Might be a good excuse to find a new set of wheels. At this point, the alignment results are in, so let's check them out. These are the measurements that were taken before the alignment was performed. We can see the left front camber is out, as is the right front camber and toe. Now you'll notice the caster here is grayed out on both sides. According to the shop, also according to what I've read online, caster is not adjustable in this car. If we come down to the rear, we can see that the left rear toe was out. Now when we go to the measurements after the alignment was taken, everything is green. This car was able to be put back into factory spec without an issue. And with that, I want to give my sincerest apologies to all the haters, I mean experts, who were wrong in saying that this car would never ever be able to be properly aligned again.
Everything worked out really well. For a really reasonable price, we got the car completely aligned. It went into factory spec. How many times have I said factory spec during this video? And even though we did find that bent wheel in the back there, it's not the end of the world. That's a really simple thing to fix. You just go and buy a new or used wheel. Now, in my opinion and through my experience, I do personally believe that cars that were involved in accidents, especially accidents severe enough to total a car, they generally are harder to get back into alignment. However, I do believe anything can be repaired. Even on my Corvette, you could tear the front corner of that car down, figure out exactly why the caster didn't go 100% into spec, repair whatever that is, and put it all back together. Whether it ends up mattering too much at the end of the day, well, that's for you guys to let me know. Like I said, I really am not an expert when it comes to wheel alignments. So the guys out there that know what they're talking about, let me know in the comment section below. Am I gonna have a long-term issue with the Corvette, or is it just not a big deal? If you're not already following me on Instagram, you can see photos like the ones that I took at the tire shop while the car was being aligned before videos like this show up here on YouTube. Just follow me right here or click the link in the description box below. Guys, I really appreciate you watching, and I will catch you very soon.